The cream-colored postcard trembled in my hands, its gold-embossed letters announcing another Davidson family reunion. 3 years had passed since I'd seen any of them, except for my sister Alea's occasional secret visits. I traced my finger over the elaborate script, remembering the last words my father had spat at me. Senseless dreamer, you'll come crawling back when reality hits. I'm Yesenia, and I haven't crawled back yet. The morning sun streamed through my office windows, highlighting the sleek furniture and modern decor of my tech company's headquarters. Below, San Francisco's financial district buzzed with early morning energy. A far cry from the cramped bedroom where I'd started coding at 16, much to my parents' disapproval. Another one of these arrived for you at the old address, Amelia said during our weekly video call that evening. Her face flickered on my laptop screen, concern etched in her features. Mom asked if you're coming this time. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister's expression. What did you tell her? The usual, that I don't know what you're up to these days. She paused, fidgeting with her necklace, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. But Yesenia, things are different now. They talk about you sometimes. Oh? I tried to keep my voice neutral, but my heart quickened. Let me guess. Still calling me the family disappointment? Actually, no. Dad saw your company featured in Tech Weekly. He kept the magazine. The admission hit me like a punch to the gut. I remembered the day I'd told them about my business plan, how I wanted to revolutionize small business accounting software. Mom had laughed, not unkindly, but in that dismissive way that made me feel small. Honey, be realistic. Get your accounting degree. Find a nice stable job like your cousin Michael. You're making a mistake, Dad had added, his voice hard. We didn't put you through college so you could throw it all away on some pipe dream. A knock at my office door pulled me back to the present. Barrett, my business partner, stuck his head in. Board meeting in 5. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I held up the postcard. Family reunion. His eyebrows shot up. The same family that said you'd never make it? The ones who... Yep, those ones. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Amelia, I'll call you back later, okay? After ending the call, I followed Barrett down the hallway, our footsteps echoing on the polished concrete floors. You know, he said, sometimes the best revenge is just being successful. This isn't about revenge, I protested, but the words felt hollow. Sure it's not. He grinned, holding the conference room door open. Just like that time you didn't deliberately schedule our IPO announcement on your dad's birthday. I smiled despite myself. That was just convenient timing. Inside, our board members were already seated around the massive table. As I took my place at the head, I couldn't help but think about how different this felt from those family dinners, where my voice was always the last to be heard, if it was heard at all. Later that night, as I stood on my apartment balcony overlooking the city lights, my phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Adeline, the only family member who'd supported my dreams from the start. Your mother called, she wrote. There's more to this reunion than they're letting on. Be prepared, sweetheart. I gripped the railing, remembering the day I'd left home. I'd packed my bags while everyone was at church, leaving only a note. Going to chase my senseless dreams. Don't worry about me crawling back. The city twinkled below, a testament to all the other dreamers who'd refused to give up. My company now employed over 200 people, our software used by thousands of small businesses across the country. The pipe dream had become a multi-million-dollar reality. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Amelia. Mom's crying. Dad's locked himself in his study. Please come to the reunion. They need you, even if they won't admit it. I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about karma, family, and the fine line between revenge and redemption. Finally, I typed my response. Tell them I'll be there, but this time we play by my rules. The moment I hit send, I knew everything was about to change. Sometimes the universe has a way of bringing things full circle, and I had a feeling this family reunion was going to be very different from the last one. I picked up the postcard again, running my thumb over the date. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I'd face the family that had dismissed my dreams. But this time, I wouldn't be the one seeking validation. I'd be the one giving second chances, if they were willing to earn them. Remember when you used to code in that tiny coffee shop? Barrett laughed, passing me a steaming mug of artisanal coffee in our office kitchen. The owner thought you were writing a novel, Mario's Coffee House. I smiled, inhaling the familiar aroma. He used to give me free refills because he felt sorry for the struggling writer. If only he knew what I was actually building. The memory of those early days felt surreal now. 5 years had passed since I'd sat in that corner booth, surviving on coffee and determination, coding what would become Simple Books, now the fastest-growing small business accounting software in the country. Speaking of the past, Barrett said, his expression turning serious, have you told your family about next week's merger announcement? I shook my head. They'll find out with everyone else, though I doubt they follow tech news that closely. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail from Amelia. Third one today. I'd been avoiding her calls since agreeing to attend the reunion, but something in her last text seemed urgent. You should listen to it, Barrett urged. Your sister's different from the rest of them. She actually showed up when we launched. He was right. While my parents had ignored my invitation to our company's launch party 2 years ago, Amelia had sneaked in through the back entrance, hugged me tight, and whispered, I always knew you could do it. I pressed play on the voicemail, putting it on speaker. Yesenia, please call me back. It's important. Something's happened with Mom and Dad, and just call me, okay? And don't believe anything Michael tells you. Barrett's eyebrows shot up. Michael? Isn't he that cousin who tried to talk me out of starting the company? Yeah, that's him. I grabbed my jacket. I need to meet Amelia. Can you handle the afternoon meetings? Go. He nodded. Family first. I found Amelia at our old spot, the botanical gardens where we used to hide when family dinners got too intense. She was pacing near the koi pond, her designer heels clicking against the stone path. Finally, she rushed toward me, her perfectly styled hair disheveled from running her hands through it. I've been trying to reach you all day. I've been busy, I said, then softened at her worried expression. What's wrong? Everything. She collapsed onto a nearby bench. Dad's company is failing. They're on the brink of bankruptcy. Michael's been advising them, but I think he's making things worse. The news shouldn't have affected me, but it did. Despite everything, they were still my parents. How bad is it? Bad enough that Mom's selling her jewelry. Dad's talking about remortgaging the house. Amelia's voice cracked. They don't know I'm telling you this. They're too proud. I laughed bitterly. Too proud to ask for help from their senseless dreamer daughter? You don't understand. Amelia grabbed my hand. Michael's been feeding them terrible advice, convincing Dad to make risky investments. I think he's doing it on purpose. A memory flashed. Michael at our last family Christmas, his eyes narrowing when Mom bragged about his stable banking job. At least some people in this family understand the value of traditional careers, she'd said, pointedly not looking at me. Why would Michael want to hurt them? I asked, though I was already connecting the dots. Because he's jealous, Amelia said quietly. Of you. Your success. Everyone in the family talks about you now, even if Mom and Dad won't admit it. Michael hates it. My phone buzzed. A news alert about our upcoming merger. Soon, Simple Books would be worth even more. The timing seemed almost cosmic. There's something else, Amelia continued. The family reunion? It wasn't Mom's idea. It was Michael's. He's planning something, Yesenia. I can feel it. I stood up, watching the koi fish swim in lazy circles. Success had been my revenge, but maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe the universe was offering me a chance to do more than just prove them wrong. A chance to protect the very people who'd dismissed me. Tell me everything you know about what Michael's been doing, I said, pulling out my phone to text Barrett. And Amelia? Thank you for warning me. She smiled, relief flooding her features. That's what sisters are for. As we walked through the gardens, Amelia filling me in on Michael's schemes, I couldn't help but think about karma. My family had once dismissed my dreams as senseless, but those same dreams might now be their only salvation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Neither was the responsibility. One more thing, Alea added as we reached my car. Mom's been keeping a folder of every news article about you and your company. She thinks I don't know, but I found it in her bedside drawer. Sometimes revenge isn't about making others suffer. Sometimes it's about being successful enough to help those who once hurt you, whether they deserve it or not. Aaliyah and I sat in my favorite bistro, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. She hadn't touched her salad, instead spreading papers across the table. Bank statements, investment reports, and loan documents. See these transactions? She pointed to a series of numbers. Michael convinced Dad to invest almost everything in these high-risk ventures. They lost 60% in 3 months. I studied the documents, my tech-trained mind spotting patterns. These aren't just bad investments. They're deliberately structured to fail. Michael's steering them toward bankruptcy. That's not even the worst part. Alea lowered her voice. He's been suggesting they take out a second mortgage to invest in some new scheme. Says it's guaranteed to turn everything around. The waiter approached with fresh coffee, and we fell silent until he left. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, remembering how Dad used to pride himself on his business acumen, how he'd lectured me about the foolishness of starting my own company. Does Michael know about the merger? I asked. No, but he keeps asking questions about your company. Weird questions, like who's on your board, what your cash reserves are like. My phone lit up with a text from Barrett. Emergency board meeting called. Michael's name came up. Call me ASAP. Before I could respond, the bistro's door chimed. I looked up to see Michael himself walking in, his expensive suit and practiced smile unchanged since I'd last seen him. What a surprise! He made his way to our table, all charm and confidence. My 2 favorite cousins. Aaliyah's hand trembled as she gathered the papers, but Michael had already seen them. Ah, helping your sister understand the family's situation? He pulled up a chair, uninvited. It's unfortunate, really. Uncle Isaac was too set in his old ways. Wouldn't listen to modern investment advice. Funny. I met his gaze. I remember him being quite open to your advice. Michael's smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered in his eyes. We can't all be tech prodigies like you, Yesenia. Some of us have to work in the real world of finance. The real world? I couldn't help but laugh. You mean the world where you orchestrate your uncle's financial ruin? His expression hardened. Careful with accusations like that, cousin. Especially with your company's big announcement coming up. Would be a shame if certain concerns were raised to the SEC. Aaliyah gasped, but I kept my face neutral. Is that a threat, Michael? Just family looking out for family. He stood, adjusting his tie. Speaking of which, I assume you're coming to the reunion? Your parents could really use some support right now. After he left, Alea burst into tears. I'm so sorry, Yesenia. I should have seen what he was doing sooner. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. This isn't your fault, but I need you to tell me everything. When did Michael first start helping with Dad's business? As Alea talked, I texted Barrett. Need background check on Michael. Comprehensive. Also any connections to our competitors. Already on it, he replied. You're not going to like what we found. My phone rang, Mom's number flashing on the screen. I showed it to Alea. Answer it, she urged. Please, they really do need you. I took a deep breath and swiped to accept. Hello, Mom. Yesenia. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. We saw the article about your company in the business journal. Your father. We're very proud? I supplied, the word tasting bitter. Yes. She paused. We were wrong, honey. About so many things. 3 years of silence and now this. Mom, why are you really calling? I heard her take a shaky breath. We need your help. Michael says you're the only one who can, but we understand if you don't want to. I'll be there tomorrow. I cut her off. Have Dad there too. And Mom, don't sign anything else Michael gives you. After hanging up, I looked at Amelia. How much do they owe? She showed me another document. The number made me wince. It's not about the money, she said quietly. Michael's after something bigger. He keeps talking about a hostile takeover, about how family businesses should stay in the family. My phone buzzed with another text from Barrett. Michael's been meeting with our biggest competitor. They're planning something for the day of the merger announcement. I stood up, dropping cash on the table for our untouched lunch. Amelia, I need you to do something for me. Tell Mom and Dad I'm coming tomorrow with a proposal, but warn them, they might not like my terms. What are you going to do? I grabbed my coat, my mind already racing with plans. I'm going to save our parents. And then I'm going to make Michael regret ever messing with this family. The game he'd started was about to change. Michael thought he could use my family's vulnerability against me. He was about to learn why Forbes had called me the most ruthless innovator under 30. Family drama was about to meet corporate warfare, and I intended to win both battles. The familiar crunch of gravel under my Tesla's tires sent my heart racing as I pulled into my parents' driveway. Their colonial-style house looked smaller than I remembered, the paint peeling around the windows. Dad's prized rose bushes were overgrown, telling their own story of financial distress. Barrett's voice came through my car's speakers. You sure you don't want me there? I need you tracking Michael's movements, I replied, watching my parents emerge onto the front porch. Let me know the moment he makes contact with our competitors. I grabbed my laptop bag and stepped out into the crisp autumn air. Mom moved forward as if to hug me, then stopped herself, settling for an awkward wave. Dad stood rigid, his once proud posture now bearing the weight of failure. You look... Mom's voice cracked. You look successful. Let's go inside, I said, noting the neighbors' curious glances. We have a lot to discuss. The living room was exactly as I'd left it 3 years ago, down to the family photos that carefully excluded any mention of my achievements. I took my old seat at the dining table, opening my laptop while my parents settled across from me. Before we start, Dad cleared his throat. I want to say... Save it, I cut him off, pulling up the documents Amelia had shared. Let's talk about how Michael convinced you to invest your retirement fund in shell companies he created. They exchanged shocked looks. Mom's hand flew to her throat. How did you... I'm not that senseless dreamer anymore, Mom. I run a tech company. Finding information is what we do. I turned my laptop around. Michael's been systematically destroying your finances while positioning himself to take over Dad's company for pennies on the dollar. But he's family, Dad protested weakly. He said he was trying to help modernize our approach. By bankrupting you? I pulled up more documents. He's working with TechFin, my biggest competitor. They're planning to acquire your company's client list and contracts after forcing you into bankruptcy. Then they'll use that as leverage against my company during our merger announcement next week. The color drained from Dad's face. I trusted him. We trusted him. Like you trusted in my abilities? The words came out sharper than intended. Or did you only start believing in me after seeing my net worth in Forbes? Mom started crying softly. Dad stared at his hands, weathered from years of building his business from scratch. The same hands that had once slammed the door behind me when I left. How much? I asked. $2 million, Dad whispered, plus the house mortgage. I pulled out a contract from my bag. I'm prepared to help, but on my terms. This is a business proposal, not a loan. They leaned forward as I laid out the details. With each term, their eyes grew wider. You want controlling interest in Dad's company? Mom asked incredulously, along with 3 seats on the board, immediate removal of Michael from any advisory position, and both of you signing an NDA about our merger until it's announced. I met their stunned expressions. In exchange, I'll clear all debts and inject enough capital to modernize operations. That's... Dad struggled for words. Business, I finished. The same business sense you claimed I lacked. I'm offering to save everything you've built, but I won't do it as your daughter begging for approval. I'm doing it as a CEO protecting her interests." The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed. Finally, Dad reached for a pen. "Isaac, wait." Mom touched his arm. "Yesenia, this feels cold. Colder than telling me I'd never amount to anything? Than dismissing every idea I had because it didn't fit your definition of success?" I stood up, gathering my things. "I'll give you 24 hours to decide. After that, I'll have to explore other options to protect my company from Michael's schemes." As I reached the door, Dad's voice stopped me. "We were wrong." I turned. He looked older, smaller somehow. "We were wrong about everything. Your dreams, your potential. You." "I know," I said quietly. "The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" Mom stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "We'll sign. Not because we have to, but because we trust you. Now, finally." I nodded, my throat tight. "I'll have my lawyers draw up the final papers. And Mom, Dad? Next time Michael comes around, tell him your senseless dreamer of a daughter sends her regards." Walking back to my car, I texted Barrett. "They're in. Start phase 2. His reply came instantly. "Michael just scheduled a meeting with TechFin for tomorrow. Want me to crash it?" I smiled, starting my car. "No. Let him think he's winning. The best revenge needs perfect timing." And timing, like success, was something I'd learned to master. The family dinner was my idea. A power move disguised as reconciliation. I reserved a private room at La Maison, the kind of upscale restaurant my parents could no longer afford. Michael's face when he walked in and saw me at the head of the table was worth every penny. "Cousin." His smile faltered slightly. "I didn't know you'd be joining us." I wouldn't miss it. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. "We have so much to catch up on." Amelia sat to my right, while Mom and Dad occupied the other side. The tension could have shattered the crystal glasses. "Wine?" I offered, pouring Michael a glass of expensive Bordeaux. "I remember you're quite the connoisseur. Always knew the value of liquid assets." He caught my meaning, his knuckles whitening around the stem of his glass. "Speaking of assets, Uncle Isaac, have you considered my proposal about—" "Actually," Dad interrupted, sitting straighter. "We've decided to go in a different direction. Yesenia has offered to help modernize the company." Michael's fork clattered against his plate. "You can't be serious. She doesn't know anything about running a traditional business. Her little software company is worth more than you could imagine." Aunt Adeline's voice cut through as she swept into the room. I'd invited her as backup, knowing her presence would rattle Michael. She was the family matriarch, and the only one who'd seen through him from the start. "Adeline." Michael stood to kiss her cheek. "I didn't expect—" Clearly. She took the seat beside me. "You haven't expected a lot of things lately, have you? Like how thoroughly some of us can investigate suspicious investment patterns." The waiter arrived with our appetizers, providing a brief reprieve from the mounting tension. I watched Michael's face as he processed the shifting dynamics. "I've only ever acted in the family's best interest," he said smoothly, "unlike some who abandon their parents to chase wild dreams." "Funny thing about dreams," I replied, pulling out my tablet. "Sometimes they help you spot nightmares." I slid the device toward him. "Like these transactions you've been orchestrating. Care to explain them to everyone?" Color drained from his face as he scanned the documents. "Where did you get these?" "The same place TechFin will get them tomorrow morning if you don't back off." I took a sip of wine. "Along with evidence of your insider trading." Mom gasped. Dad reached for her hand under the table. "You're bluffing," Michael hissed, but sweat beaded on his forehead. "Am I?" I pulled up another document. Like I was bluffing about starting a successful company? About making it big in tech? "Face it, cousin. You bet against the wrong horse." Aunt Adeline cleared her throat. "Michael, dear, I think it's time you told everyone about your gambling debts. And why you really needed Uncle Isaac's company to fail." The look of pure shock on his face confirmed everything. My private investigator had been thorough. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered, but Alea was already pulling out more papers. "Your offshore accounts," she said quietly. "The ones you've been hiding money in. Did you think nobody would notice?" "Enough." Mom's voice cracked through the tension. She turned to Michael, tears in her eyes. "How could you? We trusted you. We chose your advice over our own daughter's success." "Speaking of success," I interjected, "Dad, would you like to tell Michael about our new arrangement?" Dad straightened his shoulders, looking more like his old self than he had in years. "Yesenia's company is acquiring a controlling interest in my business. She's going to help us modernize, expand, and—" He paused, looking at me with newfound respect. "Succeed." Michael shot to his feet, his chair scraping loudly. "You can't do this. I have contracts, agreements." "All void as of this morning," I smiled. "Check your email. Our lawyers have been busy." "You'll regret this," he snarled, throwing his napkin down. "All of you." "No, Michael," Aunt Adeline said firmly. "The only regret here is that we didn't see through you sooner. Now, I suggest you leave before Yesenia shares those documents with the SEC." After he stormed out, the tension dissolved into nervous laughter. Mom was crying again, but this time she reached for my hand across the table. "I don't deserve your help," she whispered. "We don't deserve any of this. Maybe not." I squeezed her hand. "But family is family, even when they're wrong, even when they hurt you. Sometimes especially then." Aunt Adeline raised her glass. "To second chances, and to the senseless dreamer who showed us all what dreams can really do." As we clinked glasses, I caught Alea's proud smile. The revenge I'd imagined for so long felt different now. Less like triumph over my family, and more like triumph for them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving cold dishes. Sometimes it's serving hope instead. "He's making his move," Barrett announced, bursting into my office early Monday morning. Michael just walked into TechFin's headquarters with a briefcase full of documents. I glanced at my watch. 8:15 a.m., right on schedule. "Did you send the package?" "Delivered to their board 10 minutes ago." He grinned, loosening his tie. "You should see their stock trading pattern. Something big is happening in there." My phone buzzed. "Alea." "Turn on CNBC now." I grabbed the remote, flicking on the wall-mounted TV. The headline scrolling across the bottom made my heart race. "TechFin CEO steps down amid insider trading allegations." "Holy shit," Barrett whispered. "Your plan actually worked." The reporter's voice filled my office. "Sources say the SEC is investigating multiple instances of securities fraud and market manipulation. TechFin's board has called an emergency meeting." My office door flew open again. This time it was Dad, looking more animated than I'd seen him in years. "Did you see? Michael just called me, ranting about how I've ruined everything. What did you do?" "Not here," I said, grabbing my jacket. "Boardroom, now. Barrett, get everyone on the video call." 5 minutes later, we sat around the gleaming conference table, faces of my executive team filling the screens on the wall. Dad looked overwhelmed by the technology surrounding him, but there was something else in his expression. Pride. "Michael didn't just target our family," I began, pulling up documents on the main screen. "He's been running this scheme with multiple companies, destabilizing family-owned businesses, forcing them into bankruptcy, then helping TechFin acquire their assets at pennies on the dollar." "But why?" Dad asked. "He had a good position at the bank, respect in the family. Gambling debts," Barrett explained. "Huge ones. He needed big wins to cover his losses. TechFin promised him a percentage of each acquisition." My phone lit up with a text from Aunt Adeline. "Michael just showed up at your parents' house. He's threatening to expose something about your merger." "Right on cue," I muttered, then addressed the room. "Everyone clear on phase 3? The screens filled with nods. Dad looked confused. "There's more?" "Michael thinks he has leverage over our upcoming merger announcement," I explained. "What he doesn't know is that we've been 10 steps ahead this whole time." My phone rang. Michael's number. I put it on speaker. "You think you're so clever." His voice trembled with rage. "But I have proof your merger is built on fraudulent numbers. One call to the press and—" "You mean these numbers?" I interrupted, nodding to Barrett, who pressed a button. Every screen filled with documents. "The ones you falsified and planted in our system last week? The ones we've been tracking since you first tried to hack our servers?" Silence on the other end. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to walk away. From our family, from Dad's company, from everything. Because if you don't, the SEC won't just get proof of your TechFin schemes, they'll get evidence of every illegal trade you've made in the last 5 years." "You wouldn't," he hissed. "It would hurt the family reputation." Dad stood up, leaning toward the speaker. "The family reputation was hurt the moment we chose to believe in you instead of my daughter. No more, Michael. It's over." The line went dead. Barrett's phone pinged. "TechFin's board just announced they're pulling out of all pending acquisitions. Their stock is in freefall." "And our merger?" Dad asked anxiously. I smiled, pulling up one final document. "Was never with TechFin. We're merging with their biggest rival. The announcement tomorrow will destroy what's left of their market share." Dad sank back into his chair, shaking his head in amazement. "All this time, you weren't just protecting our family business. You were playing chess while Michael played checkers." Barrett finished. "That's why she's the CEO. My phone buzzed again. "Amelia. Michael just left. He looked destroyed. Mom wants to know if you're coming over for dinner tonight." I looked at Dad, seeing him differently now. Not as the man who dismissed my dreams, but as someone who'd learned from his mistakes. Someone who was finally ready to learn from his daughter. "Tell Mom yes," I texted back. "We have a new business plan to discuss." "Yes, Amelia." Dad's voice was thick with emotion. "I spent years teaching you about business, but it turns out you're the one who had the most to teach me." "That's the thing about being a senseless dreamer," I replied, standing to hug him. "Sometimes those dreams make more sense than anyone could have imagined." The screens behind us filled with breaking news alerts about TechFin's collapse, but I barely noticed. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't the ones that make headlines. They're the ones that heal what was broken. The merger announcement press conference was set for 10 a.m., but by 9:30, the hotel ballroom was already packed. I stood backstage, watching through a gap in the curtains as reporters and industry analysts filed in. Mom, Dad, and Amelia sat in the front row, looking both nervous and proud. "Ready to make history?" Barrett appeared beside me, adjusting his tie. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Don't do this." Michael's voice was desperate. "I can offer you a better deal. TechFin's board is probably looking for a new patsy right about now." I cut him off. "Goodbye, Michael." "You've ruined me," he shouted. "After everything this family—" I ended the call as Aunt Adeline approached, elegant as ever in her designer suit. "He's not giving up, is he?" "He just made his last mistake." I showed her the call log. "Trying to interfere with a merger announcement? The SEC will love this recording." The lights dimmed, signaling it was time. As I stepped onto the stage, camera flashes erupted like lightning. I caught Mom wiping tears from her eyes, Dad squeezing her hand. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady. "Today, Simple Books isn't just announcing a merger. We're announcing a revolution in how family businesses can thrive in the digital age." The screens behind me lit up with our new company logo. Gasps rippled through the audience as they realized what they were seeing. By combining Simple Books technology with 23 family-owned businesses across the country, including my father's company, we're creating the largest network of modernized traditional businesses in America. Cameras clicked frantically as I continued. Every company Michael targeted, every family business he tried to destroy, they're all here today, joining forces under one digital umbrella. The side door burst open. Michael stormed in, his suit disheveled. "This is a fraud. She's lying about—" Two security guards grabbed his arms as federal agents emerged from the crowd. "Mr. Michael Hayes?" One agent stepped forward. We have some questions about your recent activities with TechFin. The room erupted in chaos as they led him away, his shouts echoing off the walls. I maintained my composure, waiting for the noise to settle. As I was saying, I continued, today marks a new chapter. Not just for these businesses, but for every family that's ever been told their dreams were senseless. The presentation continued smoothly after that. Charts showed projected growth, innovation plans, integration strategies. But the real story was happening in the front row, where my parents watched with a mixture of awe and regret. After the formal announcement during the reception, Mom pulled me aside. Her eyes were red from crying. "All those times we said you were throwing your life away," she whispered. "You were actually preparing to save everyone else's." "Mom, no, let me finish." She gripped my hands. "We were so focused on protecting you from failure that we nearly prevented you from achieving something extraordinary." Dad joined us, looking uncomfortable in his new suit. "The other business owners told me what Michael tried to do to them. How you stepped in, offered them a way out, a way forward. That's what technology should do," I said. "Not replace tradition, but enhance it. Like I tried to tell you years ago." Aaliyah appeared with champagne. "The press wants to know if the family business savior has any comment about her cousin's arrest." "Tell them karma needs no comment." Aunt Adeline answered for me, raising her glass. Though I must say, watching him being let out in handcuffs was rather satisfying. Barrett tapped my shoulder. "Sorry to interrupt, but the other CEOs want to toast their new board chairwoman." Mom's eyes widened. "Board chairwoman? Of all 23 companies." I nodded, including Dad's, though he's staying on as president of operations. "I'm learning from her now," Dad said quietly. "Should have been doing that all along." The reception buzzed with energy as families who'd almost lost everything celebrated their new beginning. I watched as Dad explained our technology to other business owners, his face animated with possibilities he'd once feared. "You know," Aunt Adeline murmured, "revenge is sweetest when it lifts everyone up instead of tearing anyone down." "This wasn't about revenge," I protested. She laughed. "Of course it was, dear, but it was also about something bigger. You didn't just prove them wrong, you proved them better than they knew they could be." As I looked around the room at all the families whose businesses we'd saved, I realized she was right. The best revenge wasn't destroying Michael or proving my parents wrong. It was showing them exactly how right I could be. The autumn breeze carried the scent of Mom's famous apple pie through the open windows of my childhood home. In the backyard, Dad was teaching Barrett the secret to pruning his prize roses, while Alea set the patio table for Sunday dinner, a tradition we'd recently revived. "Never thought I'd see your father willingly share his gardening secrets." Aunt Adeline smiled, helping me carry dishes outside. Then again, I never thought I'd see him taking coding classes either. "The students in his digital transformation seminar love him," I laughed, especially when he tells them about initially calling computers fancy calculators. My phone buzzed. A news alert about Michael's sentencing. 8 years for fraud and market manipulation. I switched it off, refusing to let him intrude on this moment. "Dinner's ready," Mom called from the kitchen. As everyone gathered around the table, I noticed the subtle changes in my parents. Mom's proud posture as she served the meal she'd cooked in her newly renovated kitchen. Dad's relaxed smile as he discussed upcoming tech implementations with his business partner. "Before we eat," Dad stood, clearing his throat, "I have an announcement." He pulled out a familiar-looking folder, the one Mom had kept of my press clippings. "Yesenia, remember how you always wanted to expand the business education program at your old high school?" I nodded, curious. "Well, your mother and I are starting a scholarship fund, the Senseless Dreamers Grant, for young entrepreneurs who dare to think differently." My fork clattered against the plate. "Dad, using some of the profits from our merged companies," Mom added, her eyes shining, "to help other parents recognize their children's potential before—" She paused, composing herself. "Before they almost lose them like we almost lost you." Barrett raised his glass. "To senseless dreamers everywhere. And to those who learn to believe in them." Aunt Adeline added pointedly, looking at my parents. Actually, Alia interjected, there's something else. She pulled out her laptop, opening it to reveal a familiar-looking code interface. Yesenia's been teaching me programming. I'm launching a companion app to Simple Books, focusing on helping traditional businesses transition to digital. Mom didn't even flinch at the announcement. Instead, she beamed. Tell us more about it, honey. As Alia excitedly explained her project, I watched my father's face. Not a trace of the dismissive skepticism that had once greeted my own dreams. He asked intelligent questions about user interface and market research, proving he'd been paying attention in those coding classes. I have one more surprise, I said when Alea finished. I handed Dad a small box. Inside was a new nameplate for his office. Isaac Davidson, Chief Innovation Officer. But that's your position, he protested. Was my position. The board unanimously agreed. You've shown an incredible talent for bridging the gap between traditional business and technology. We need you in this role. He stared at the nameplate, running his fingers over the engraved letters. I spent so many years resisting change, fighting against the future instead of embracing it. I almost lost everything because of that fear. But you didn't. Mom touched his arm. You learned. We all did. Speaking of learning, Barrett chimed in, wait until you hear Yesenia's next project. It's going to revolutionize how family businesses... Actually, I interrupted, I thought Dad might like to present that one at the next board meeting. He came up with half the concept during our strategy session. Pride blazed across Dad's face. Not the old pride of stubborn tradition, but the new pride of shared achievement. Of dreams built together instead of torn apart. Aunt Adeline raised her glass again. To the family business, both the business part and the family part. As we clinked glasses, I caught Mom slipping another article into her folder. This one about Alea's upcoming app launch. Some habits die hard, but this one had transformed from a secret shrine to missed opportunities into a celebration of possibilities. You know? Dad said quietly as everyone else broke into smaller conversations. I keep thinking about that day you left. How sure I was that you were making a mistake. Now I realize the only mistake was not dreaming big enough to include you in my vision of success. I squeezed his hand. Maybe we needed that distance to find our way back here, to build something better together. The evening sun cast long shadows across the yard, but for once I wasn't counting the minutes until I could escape back to my own world. This was my world now, too. Not because I'd proven them wrong, but because we'd all grown enough to create something new together. Sometimes the best dreams aren't the ones we chase alone, but the ones we learn to share.